Hey everyone, Dylan Warren from Team PPG FOE here. I'm going to bring you something a little bit different today. The last few videos I've made for the channel were deck profiles over some things I was testing. And currently, I feel like a lot of the same deck profiles are being put out, things like that, things you've seen before. So I wanted to give you something a little different, something that I thought would be a little bit more exciting of a video for you to watch. And that is some underrated meta techs. So a lot of people who ask me for deck advice or for help with their deck building always ask me for the spicy cards, the techs to squeak into the list for the extra one of in the sideboard slot or the one of to like kind of counter a meta deck. So that's kind of what I'm going to give you today. Some stuff that's maybe not as expensive as other things in the meta, or things that I feel are underrated. Maybe they're good, they have their place in the meta, but people are overlooking them or not playing them for one reason or another. So I'll go through, I'll explain what each card does and why it's on the list, and let you know how it got here. So the first thing is the leader that I put in here. So this is built as a deck. It's not really a deck. This is, I honestly almost didn't want to share this because this is a leader that I don't really want to play against. But this leader is very much a meta call. So do I think this leader is tier 1 on its own? No. But given the current format, my locals in general has a good amount of Mecha Frieza players and King Cold players. Most rounds you're going to see those two decks quite a bit. So if you expect a format kind of like that, maybe Invoker 2 is kind of less strong versus Invoker because they can play around them a little bit more. But the idea is Gotenks leader, he has an ability when he swings, you can add to 1 life to your hand and draw a card. But once per turn, when your opponent, if your opponent has 1 or more energy, when your opponent activates an extra card, draw a card. So it's on both players' turns. And he also does the same thing on the backside. And also, when you activate Union Fusion, which you can choose to use or not to use in the deck, he gets plus 5,000 power and critical. So the idea is a deck like Mecha Frieza that's going to play a ton of extra cards on both players' turns. So it triggers once per turn, which can be on your turn or your opponent's turn. So the idea is if they're activating extra cards on both players' turns, you're going to draw an insane amount of value. The same thing for King Cold. They have to activate their extra cards to play the game. So Gotenks is going to allow you to get tons of draw if they're going to just play their normal game. I don't want to see this later. Now, against other decks, it still has a decent game plan. So you could play a shell like a blue-yellow with the Bojack Aegis, just like Mecha Frieza. So against some decks, it's just a generic yellow decent leader. But it gives you really strong matchups against certain decks in the format. Another one, this one I think is the most expensive card on the list, $17, is Toa. The reason this made the list is, one, it can be played in any deck. I think it's more of a board option than a main deck option. She has a thing, she can't attack, she has 2 preferred markers. When one of your opponent's battle cards is KO'd or moved by a skill, you can add a marker to this card. So the good thing is that's on both players' turns. So if you have a type of deck like green where you can KO on both turns, she can get markers really fast. She has a -4 where she can steal a battle card. So it's really good, especially versus decks that play these guys, that like if they're stolen, you crit a damage. The ruling on these is if you steal them, your opponent that played the card takes the crit damage. And also versus like 9-drops in Shenron, where you can steal, but anything that plays like really big, really pesky battle cards earlier, you can take them, and also clears low to the ground boards pretty easy, and it can be sided or played in any deck. This one, East Kai Keeping Watch. Any deck you splice blue because it's 1 blue. Your deck doesn't have to be mono blue. It can be blue yellow, blue red, blue green, blue anything. When it's played, draw a card during your turn. When your opponent plays a battle card, your opponent chooses 1 card in the hand and places it at the bottom of the deck. So this effect can stack if you have more than 1. It's not once per turn. And in the current format, a lot of people are using like a rival or combo to play cards where they'll play cards on your turn, which if they don't have a way to answer this card, it gets really pesky. It sits on board, it annoys them, and becomes a huge pain for them. Also, as you can see, it costs 5 cents. So, again, we're going with the kind of theme of easy, cheap, underrated cards here. This card, West Kai, is 1-drop barrier. You're not really going to play them. When you combo this card, choose up to 1 card in your opponent's combo area, return to its opponent's hand. This is a card that exists and people just forget about it. So, I like putting these into the decks, especially in like best of 1 formats. You can play it in decks like Vegex because it's just combos, so you don't have to cast or anything. So a deck like Vegex where you get the Kais and you already get like a lot of combo power, this can give you even more when your opponent goes all in. And you know, if you played this game for any amount of time, you learn that a lot of games come down to your opponent just beat you by a 5k combo or a 10k combo, and if you just had this much more combo, you would have won the game. So this card allows you to get an extra turn. So a lot of times your opponent dumps all in. If you have 2 or 3 of these in hand, plus any amount of super combos, depending on the deck, there's a good chance you're not going to die, and you're going to get another turn. And this game comes down to a lot of times, if you just have 1 more turn, you could win the game. Slumber Strike. If your leader card is green, choose 1 battle card with energy cost greater than or equal to your opponent's energy and KO it, or choose a 3 or less and KO it. This card specifically for me is for Kai SCR. Now it can be used for a variety of things. Anything that's where your opponent combos in, like Mecha Frieza, they can combo in apes. If they play some of these and you have to get them off board, the 5-drop Vegeta or Goku. But any deck that cheats stuff into play, for me it's mainly for Kai SCR. If they combo it in on defense, I can kill it off the board before they get a chance to wipe my board playing green. There's other uses for it. That's just what I like to use it for and why I have it in here. And again, I try to pick a few cards from each color. So Meditation is a 1-drop red. Choose 1 of your battle cards for the turn. Chosen card gets plus 15,000 power, can attack battle cards in active mode, and its attacks can't have its attacks negated, and can't attack your opponent's leader card. So this card is specifically, that's why this is in here for this card. So this card says deflect, dual attack blocker. Has to be played with Evolve, and it can attack your opponent's battle cards in active mode. If your leader is a Red Saiyan, so you're going to play this in a Red Saiyan deck, PPG is the most likely deck. When this card KOs 1 of your battle cards, the energy cost of 2 or more, or is removed from your battle area by opponent's skill, deal 1 damage to your opponent. So the idea is, use Meditation. Now, Goku is a 40k dual attack, can attack battle cards in active mode, can't have its attack negated, and if it kills a battle card, 2 costs or more, you deal a damage to your opponent. And that is only once per turn. So you can't hit them with both attacks and do it. But the idea is it's going to give you potentially a free damage because it can't be negated. So if your opponent's at 1 life and they have a weak battle card on board, this can be really devastating for them to deal with. This Frieza, it's listed as $6. It's just a really, I consider it an undervalued card. When you play this card, draw a card, activate battle, which is not once per turn. You can pay 1 red, choose 1 of your opponent's leader cards or battle cards, gets plus 10,000 for the duration of the battle. So this is another card that just if your opponent can't clear it off the board, it's going to generate you so much value over the course of the game. As long as it sits on board every time, you could do it to a leader card or battle card. So you can be clearing battle cards with it, or you can be pressuring their leader, swinging, and then minusing their leader by 10, keeping extra pressure. And the idea with that is you're generating value every turn without having to use cards from your hand. So if you give your opponent's leader card minus 10 and they combo out of the attack, but they use 2 to 3 cards from their hand, burn the super combo, and then you do this again next turn and minus their leader by 10. And as it sits on the board, it's going to generate so much value over the course of the game if your opponent doesn't have easy ways to clear it. Now, some decks can clear this very easily, and which maybe you sideboard it in, sideboard it out, but it's just a very value card, not very expensive. This card, Master Roshi, Martial Virtuoso. if you had a red Unison card in play, your opponent can't attack with battle cards 25k or more power for the turn, play this card. So one thing important to note is that this is a counterattack, but it does not negate the attack. It just stops your opponent from swinging with 25k or more for the turn. But that stops decks like Dark Brawly that swing with all 30ks, Agros and Shenron, which I play a lot. And it stops you from swinging with anything big. Now, the big question is, people say, well, what about Violent Rays? Isn't Violent Rays just better? Well, again, this is underrated tech. So obviously Violent Rays is good. One of the reasons I don't play red is because I've sold all my red staples. I don't feel like buying a set of Violent Rays. If you look, this card is 8 cents. So this is a tech if you want to go a little bit on the cheaper end. But it also has its own value that it plays the card. It becomes combo power. You don't really want to swing with 5Ks too often, but like if your opponent's playing Vegex where they have a 5K Unison and this actually becomes a relevant attack, it does have some value there as well. This Super Namekian Might, counterattack if you leave your cards yellow, negate the attack. You choose a card in your hand, discard it. If you do, choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards or Unison cards, and negate skills for the turn. So this is kind of like the card Petrification, which a lot of people play, or sideboarded black. But for some reason, even though this is a very similar effect, not a lot of people sideboarded or played it in yellow. It's pretty nice because not a lot of cards in the game can negate Unison skills. So like, say they have like the Boo Unison that draws a card once per turn, and you negate with this first, you can stop its effect to draw a card and untap an energy before they get to trigger it. It can also just kill off really nasty skills on attack. On cards like, let's say they swung with this, you can't negate the attack, but you could negate the skills. Okay. Discard Ice Lance. Choose one of your opponent's battle cards, activate main with an energy cost greater than the current energy, and negate its skills for the turn. This could be good against, like the Vegeta version of this. It has an effect where every time you swing, the card swinging gets minus 10k for the turn. So Ice Lance can kill off really pesky abilities like that that are lingering effects. It's also really good against like 9-drops in Shenron, which negates skills when it comes into play, has, you know, blocker and revenge. Again, this is more of a sideboard option. It's not something I would main in every yellow deck. But again, it's an underrated 7-cent tech card that can be good in certain scenarios. This is a card I love in green, Wrath of the Dragon. Counterplay for 2. If you leave your card is green, if the battle card being played has an energy cost of 2 or less, it's placed in the owner's drop area instead of being played, so it counterplays it. Choose one card in your opponent's hand, discard it. So this is mainly decided for the blue matchup. They use a lot of counterplays, especially in Blue Baby. A lot of times they reduce the cost, so most of them end up being 2 costs or less. So this will counter them, but it doesn't only counter the card. You get to kill a card from their hand, and they don't get to choose. So you choose the card in their hand, which is at random. I always like random discards in this game because you can hit their secret rares, you can hit their super combos, and if you counterplay one of their negates, like their Baby Gohan, something like that, and you rip a super combo out of their hand or rip their SCR out of their hand with this card, it becomes insane value for 2 costs and a 10-cent card. This, I put the red version of the card on here, but there's one version of this card for every color. It's called Trunks Deluge of Power. There's also a yellow Deluge of Power. There's a green Deluge of Power. They all have the same effect. Is if a battle card is red, the green one will say if the battle card is green. The yellow will say if the battle card is yellow. When you combo with this card, it gets plus 5,000 combo power for the turn. So basically, if you're comboing defensively or offensively with a battle card that matches the color, it's a 10k combo. So these are just underrated cards, 15 cents. They either protect your really important battle cards when they're defending, or when you're pushing for game on a battle card, it allows you to put a lot more combo power into it. Now, going all in on battle cards is usually a little bit more dangerous. You got to be careful when you do that. It's not as safe as going all in on a leader. There are cards that can negate effects or kill your battle cards in combo steps, so be mindful of that. But 10k combos for free are just always good. This card, I have it as underrated because it was super meta relevant and it's kind of fallen off. But with blue-yellow kind of making a comeback, I think this has meta relevance again. the battle card your opponent's being played is playing rest mode with its skills negated for the turn. Draw a card. Then, if your life is at 3 or less, choose up to one of your blue or yellow energy and switch to active mode. So this negates the skills of a card coming into play. There are a lot of powerful, big. In my last video, clipped out while I was talking about this, I was saying this can stop a lot of big battle cards coming into play, negate their effects, and play them in rest mode so they can't attack, as long as they don't have deflect. Another old card that I really like is Ready to Strike Piccolo. It's blocker, 3-drop, we're not really worried about that. The key we want is at the end of their turn, your opponent must choose cards from their hand until there are only 6 remaining, place cards to the drop area. So the idea here is a lot of decks self-awaken really fast in this current format, like Mecha Frieza, King Cold. They draw a lot of cards really early, and awaken super fast by turn 3. So by turn 3, you're looking at like a 15, 16, 17 card hand. This card, the only thing is it doesn't have barrier deflect, which is kind of the problem with the card. That's why it's not super meta relevant. But if you're playing against yellow, they kind of have less ways to deal with it. They do have options, but the idea is if they don't draw into one of those options right away, and they can't address it, this card becomes a huge problem for them. It can literally just win the game by itself. So for a 2-cent card, 2 cents, that's powerful enough to literally just win you the game. If they go from a 17-card hand down to 6, you literally discard 11 cards from their hand with 1 card because they didn't immediately draw an answer. Super powerful play, very inexpensive card. This card is one that I like as villainous, which we're probably never going to trigger. When you play another villainous battle card, your opponent chooses 1 card in their hand, places it in the drop, and you negate skill for the turn. Possibly that'll trigger, but most likely not. We're really playing it for the auto here. Choose 1 card in your energy and place it in your drop area. When you play this card, choose all your opponent's battle cards with energy cost 4 or less. Place them at the bottom of your their owner's deck in any order. So this is not a card that I think we mainboard in any blue deck. But if we're playing against a deck that floods the board 4-drop or less, something like maybe Mecha Frieza that's going to possibly have, 6, 7 4-drop or less battle cards, if they don't have a Cold Bloodlust right on hand or a Frost Deadly Poison on deck, this card can be a huge problem for them if you clear like 6, 7 battle cards with 1 play. Again, it's not something I would mainboard, but again, for $2.25 for a board wipe, it's pretty good. So, Son Goku and Vegeta Saiyan Bonds, a lot more blue-yellow decks are popping up, and this just gives you another option to Arrival. Arrival blue-yellow, when you play this card, draw 1 card, so it replaces itself. Then choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards and negate its skills for the duration of the turn. This is really good on defense, so like if your opponent swings in with a triple strike, you're at 3 life, they combo. You can negate triple strike off and take 1 damage. So this card can single-handedly win you the game if they're not expecting it. Probably nice as a one-off in blue-yellow decks, maybe just in the sideboard. But again, $1.42, cheap tech, not a lot of people are on it. And this one is just on here for the combo with Meditation. And the last one is the SS3 Bardock. Now, people kind of know about this one, but the reason why I have it on the list, 1 is cheap, $2. And the reason why this card is not super meta relevant right now is that it does not have deflect or barrier, which means Charismatic Villain can hit it, and God Sealing Technique can hit it very easily. So the card is very, very good. That's not the problem with the card. The card is it has no protection. So anytime a card costs you 4 energy, if it does not have deflect barrier or any way to protect itself with like a permanent or an auto skill, it's usually not very playable. But as far as a sideboard option, especially like if you're playing against another black deck or maybe a yellow deck, yellow cells called Bloodlust, or like a blue deck that you can ping the markers off their unisons, or green where they're not really heavy on the unison play, you sideboard this in. And the idea is as double strike, once per turn you can add a life to your hand when your opponent activates a counterattack skill, negate the skill. So it can negate a counter. And once per turn, if your life is at 1, you can switch this card to active mode, 30k double strike. Very powerful finisher. The only reason it's not seeing play is because there's no way to protect it. So that's why I like it as a board, as a 1 or 2 of. And if you combo with the 6-drop Goku Overrealm that grabs battle card from your warp, it lets it be tutorable as well. So this is my list. I hope you liked it. Again, I'm not saying these are the best cards in the meta, but these are some cheap tech options that maybe not a lot of people are thinking of. You can bring them to your locals. You can throw them in your deck as 1-ofs, 2-ofs, 3-ofs for regionals. Surprise people and take credit for thinking of it. All right. Again, shout out to the team, PPG, FOE. Subscribe to the channel, watch our videos. And you could, if you like videos like this, make sure to comment, ask for them, and I can make more videos along these lines if you enjoyed this.